Hello and welcome to my channel NBSoundHopperUK, and the subject of this video will be 10 candidates for my funeral music. Well, we've all got to go sometime. If there's one thing you get used to with age, it's going to funerals, and they have a pretty set routine. In this, you're allowed 3 pieces of music during which the attendees can reflect on your life or what they plan to drink at the wake or whatever. Selecting the 3 pieces of music is easier said than done, so my aim with this video is to enlist your aid to help me whittle down 10 tracks to 3. Therefore, I've numbered the tracks from 1 to 10, and if you could add a comment listing which 3 you think I should choose, that would be greatly appreciated. The tracks fall into 3 main categories: the absurd, because largely that's what I consider life to be; the funereal, this is me playing the game, treating my funeral as a serious event; and a few tracks that are among my favourites, simply for the hell of it. All of the tracks are, out of necessity, under 5 minutes long, because when all's said and done, funerals are a bit of a conveyor belt, and the venue for the service will be eager to get the next lot in. There's a playlist link in the video description which will give you some help if you don't know some of the tracks. Without further ado though, off we go. Number 1. Don't Play Cards with Satan by Daniel Johnston. This track is from Daniel Johnston's album 1990, which was indeed released in that year. Daniel Johnston is a name that often crops up when the term outsider music is used. It's not a genre so much as a category that implies an element of naivety or lack of self-awareness or strangeness in the way the music is either written or performed. Other artists that fit in with this would be Wildman Fisher, The Shags and Wesley Willis, among many others. Don't Play Cards with Satan is a live track with Johnston singing and playing acoustic guitar. It has an amateurish charm and it doesn't really sound like the guitar is in tune. There are some real high points towards the end. First, when he goes "take it" before frantically strumming what's meant to be a guitar solo. Then he finishes the track by screaming out Satan at the top of his voice, followed by what can only be mocking cries for more from the crowd. This track has a laugh until you cry type quality to it. It's bizarre, but you can't help feeling that Johnston means every word of it. Number 2 is Losing My Hair by Baby Bird. Stephen Jones, as the singer of Baby Bird, is one word, enjoyed success with the single You're Gorgeous in 1996. Before setting the band up, he had recorded 5 albums of lo-fi solo material as Baby Bird. 2 words. The last of these albums was Dying Happy, which came out in early 1996, and Losing My Hair is the opening track. Quite a sad song in truth, although rather unusual when it comes to the song's premise. In essence, it's about his reflections on dying from the position of being an out-of-body spectator at his own funeral. Would it be sadistic of me to inflict this on those at my funeral? Maybe, but I'd hope that they would have known me well enough to realise that it's meant as something of a bittersweet joke, yet at the same time a reminder that there's nothing wrong with accepting one's own mortality. Number 3 is Escape Lane by The Advisory Circle. Ghostbox has been one of my favourite record labels from the 21st century. In the main, releases from the label fall into the hauntology bracket. Hauntology is more an aesthetic than a genre. It draws upon sources like library music, degraded samples or recording techniques, schools' television programmes and many other sonic artefacts. Rather than yearning for the past or for some imaginary golden age to be recreated in the present, it muses on the comparison between past optimistic visions of the future and the reality we now live with. Along with Belbury Polly, The Focus Group and Pycorn Audio, The Advisory Circle has been the most prolific artist on Ghostbox. The Advisory Circle is Kate Brooks, who has several other recording aliases such as King of Woolworths and D.D. Denham. Escape Lane is from the album From Out Here and superbly captures the coming together of optimism and melancholy. There again, I also feel like it's a call to try and rediscover a positive outlook and hope for future progress. 4. You Fancy Magician by Moonwiring Club. Musically in a similar vein to the Advisory Circle but far more eccentric in execution is Ian Hodgson's output as Moonwiring Club. One criticism I would have about hauntology is the way a few of its advocates can occasionally be a bit too serious over its artistic and philosophical merits. As a consequence, Moonwiring Club often gets overlooked in articles and discussions on hauntology, which I can only think is due to the greater amount of humour in Hodgson's approach. This humour is not only evident on his website but also in a large number of strange track titles across several albums. Out of Body Garden Party, Who Are You the Ghost Of?, Horse Malfunction, Darling Homunculus and Elizabethan Automata are just a few. The track I've chosen, You Fancy Magician, is from the album A Spare Tabby at the Cat's Wedding. The understated synth sweeps and the samples of Fred Truman presenting the 70s pub games programme Indoor League are real plus points and perfect reasons why Moonwiring Club's world is a place where more people ought to spend some time. 5. Light Years by the Concert Angels. The next 3 tracks are all from my all-time favourite 10 studio albums. So, starting with Light Years from the Concert Angels' 1981 album Sleep No More, the tempo here is definitely funereal and the lyrics match this mood. For all that, I think it's a great song and the drum and guitar parts are absolutely brilliant. That's not to say the bass and keyboards don't have their part to play. The bass is simple but effective and the keyboards provide an essential background texture rather than a melody. Stephen Fellow's vocals are excellent as ever and the song's closing section is post-punk at its best. Before I go any further, here's a glimpse at what's in the planning stages for this channel.
Merry Christmas!
6. The World Still Spins at Night by Cop Show. To briefly describe Cop Show's soul album, Episode 1, it's the soundtrack for an imaginary detective drama in which the lead character saves the day but dies in the process. The World Still Spins at Night is an instrumental that helps link the opening and middle sections of the story. Like a great deal of electronic music, layering textures is a crucial component, and on this track the layers are built and interwoven in outstanding fashion. Whether intentional or not, the track title can be said to have a philosophical meaning as well, which fits in at a funeral setting. That is, life goes on even when you're not conscious of it. The world still spins at night. 7. The Beach at Red Point by Boards of Canada. As Geogaddy by Boards of Canada is my favourite ever album, it would be remiss of me not to pick a track from it. The 5-minute restriction on track times took a few potential selections out of the equation, but there was still a reasonable number of options. In the end, I went with The Beach at Red Point because it's a track that stands up as well in isolation as it does within the context of the album. The track has a hypnotic yet slightly unsettling quality. This type of duality is typical of Boards of Canada, and it's something I find irresistible about their music. On the one hand, it can sound like a warped recording from the past, but equally there's this otherworldliness that feels as though any sonic wonkiness could just as well be a product of damage caused from being sent back to us from the future, ridiculous as that sounds. I find Boards of Canada wonderfully enigmatic. Number 8 is Waltz in Black by the Stranglers. Here we are, back with the absurd. Waltz in Black is the opening track to their album The Gospel According to the Men in Black, a concept album about conspiracies relating to alien visitations. Waltz in Black consists of a looping keyboard melody with pitch-shifted laughter, sort of Pinky and Perky on acid. The layers of laughter become increasingly intense and deranged sounding as the track progresses, and I've always found it difficult not to join in with the laughter. Maybe other people have heard it think the same. Therefore, at what is considered to be a solemn occasion, the idea of people laughing uncontrollably appeals to me immensely. As far as the album is concerned, I bought it shortly after it came out and found it really hard to get into at first. It will probably never be my favourite Stranglers album, but it has grown on me over time. Irrespective of that, I've always thought of Waltz in Black as a magnificent opening to the album. Number 9, 36 Hours by John Cooper Clarke. I talked a little bit about John Cooper Clarke in my video on spoken word in music. In it I focused on what I regard as the brilliance of 36 Hours. The music by the Invisible Girls is a no-frills, unfussy rock and roller type track, and its tempo works with Clarke's fast-paced, darkly funny verbal barrage. It's a fantastic and colourful account of a short stay in the cells. There's social commentary type observation of those around him by way of lines like the what did I do's and the what am I here for's. There's also the hilariously exaggerated and absurd. Anyone who can write a line as ludicrous as everybody looks like Ernest Borgnine and make it work has a touch of genius about them. There's no chorus as such, although the line lights out sap time gets repeated, and it's a phrase with an alternative meaning when applied to the leading player at a funeral. Number 10, Green Pulse by Pie Corner Audio. To finish, some more from Ghostbox, this time with Pie Corner Audio and a track from the 2024 album The Endless Echo. The most obvious difference between Pie Corner Audio and the Advisory Circle is the more cinematic approach. Soundtracks to films by John Carpenter or Vangelis immediately spring to my mind when listening to this and a few other Pie Corner Audio albums. Like the Advisory Circle, Pie Corner Audio is just one person, Martin Jenkins, who has also released music as the head technician. With Green Pulse, I can easily imagine it fading in at the unreconciled final scene of a dystopian sci-fi film leading into the closing credits. Therefore, at a funeral it would be ideal as the last piece of music because there's nothing more dystopian than your own mortality, which, for so much of one's early life, seems inconceivable. So that's my dilemma. I need to get rid of 7 of those tracks. Just to make it perfectly clear, this is all meant in a fairly light-hearted way, although with a smattering of philosophy thrown in too. I'm not a death fetishist like the geezer in adverts from a well-known funeral plan provider. When the subject of funerals crops up, not just his own, anyone's will do, he almost seems to be on the verge of wetting himself, or worse, in excitement. If you don't know who I mean, this picture should help make it fairly obvious. The playlist featuring each of the tracks I've spoken about is linked in the video description. As I said at the start of this video, any comments regarding which 3 of the 10 tracks I should have at my funeral would be greatly appreciated. As ever, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching.